So first of all, on behalf of Harbinger Systems, a warm welcome to all of you and good morning and good afternoon. I am Akash Motwani, Marketing Executive at Harbinger Systems and your host for today. I'm pleased to welcome you for today's webinar, How to Increase E-Learning ROI Through Offline Learning. So let me introduce our speaker for today's session, Vinod Ganju. Vinod is an e-learning evangelist at Harbinger System and a regular in various e-learning conferences in Middle East and South Africa. Africa. Vinod, with a 12+ years of experience, is a keen proponent of offline e-learning and has enabled many organizations and universities to take advantage of offline learning. So without further ado, I hand over the presentation to Vinod.
Thank you, Akash. Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to all. Let me tell you about the agenda for today's webinar. We will be discussing about the challenges in learning and the solution concepts, wherein we'll be discussing key consideration for solution design and the solution overview. After that, we'll be discussing about Harbinger offline player for offline e-learning and how e-learning can increase your learning and development ROI, under which we will consider the advantages of offline e-learning and some success stories which we have at Harbinger. And we will also be having a special offer for all the attendees who are attending this webinar today. And at the end, we'll be conducting a question and answer session. So let's get started with the webinar. Now, about the challenges in learning. So the major challenge in learning is extensive training needs for large number of employees who are traveling regularly in an organization. So when you have a moving force, so your major challenge becomes that how you are going to train the people who are on the move all the time. And the other challenge which the trainers or the organizations face is about in-house training of on-field staff. When they are called for the in-house training, the on-field staff is called for the in-house training. It actually jeopardizes your entire operations. That means you risk of losing any business in that case, because your on-field staff is there having an in-house training. So in order to take care of these challenges, generally people prefer the e-learning mode, wherein they provide the e-learning courses, access to the LMS to these people so that they can access the content or the training online. But the e-learning also has its own challenges, like in low or inconsistent bandwidth areas where people may be, either they are traveling or they are on field, they may not have constant access to the internet. That becomes a major challenge for the organizations to actually have the trainings done for these kind of employees. So now, in that case, a certain organization, what they can do, they can actually have the content on the individual machines of the learners. But again, the challenge here becomes, because you are not able to track the training content or the performance of the people who have gone through that particular content. Now let us talk about how to overcome this challenge, all these challenges. Now the solution here seems to be have some kind of content which is available for learners on their individual devices that they can access without any connectivity and sync back the progress back to the LMS. So this is a solution which we are proposing. And here the key consideration for such kind of solution is that it should follow standards like download content on different storage devices, because your people may be using different devices for learning. It could be either personal computers, tablets, or even the mobiles in certain cases. And it should have ability to synchronize the latest updates between LMS and the user devices. Why the synchronization is required? In certain cases, the person may go online directly and have the courses, but at the same time, when he is not having the access to the course, or he's not having the bandwidth, or there is no connectivity, then he can actually have the content offline. So there has to be synchronization in both the modes. So that's why it should have the ability to synchronize latest updates between LMS and the user devices. And the data obviously has to be secure, because in most of the cases, the content which the organizations have is confidential in nature. Obviously, they would not want this content to be misused. And it should be supporting multiple OS and multiple browsers as well. Now, this is the solution overview, wherein in the upper part you can see there's an LMS with the content repository, and in the below part there's an offline player which can download the content and put it on the individual machines in the offline player. For in this case, this is user's personal computer, and this offline player will having the capability of course catalog and progress tracking and launch and course completion. And then you can synchronize in between, say, like initialize, user profile and ALCs, download packages, finishing and error handling. This can be all synchronized. Now, keeping in view the previous slide, I'll just move back to that solution overview. Here at Harbinger, we already have an offline player which facilitates in disconnected learning, wherein the person is not having access to the internet or the bandwidth is low. So let's have a look at the Harbinger offline player. It's a very easy to use standard-based player for accessing rich multimedia content when you are in the offline mode. And it provides enterprises a seamless and highly secure way to deliver your e-learning content by enabling anytime, anywhere access of the content. It integrates with any LMS. That means you don't have to change your LMS. You can integrate the offline player with your existing LMS. And content wherein it has interactivities and all into it. So it should not hamper voice check. Can I do the voice check? Hello. A quick voice check. If everybody is able to hear me, please type yes. Yeah, means to enhance the user experience, because you can run rich multimedia content which is with interactivities into the content without any lag or so. So that enhances the experience and the engagement of the learner. And it also supports auto synchronization of users' progress of the course with the LMS. And in fact, it's the world's first standard compliant offline content player. Now, the key features of Harbinger offline player is it is standard compliance. It's compliant with SCORM 1.2, SCORM 2004, and AICC Level 1. It has a multiple OS support. It supports Windows, XP, Vista, Windows 7, and also supports 64-bit OS. Multiple browser support for Internet Explorer, Mozilla Firefox, Safari, and Google Chrome. And as far as security is concerned, the content is encrypted. Content as well as the user data is encrypted, and HTTPS upon SSL support is also there. And offline player also offers a plug and play version wherein in case you don't want to have an offline player on your individual machines, the trainers can actually have the content on the USB drives, and that can be connected to the machines and go on through the course, and the progress can be tracked back to the LMS using the USB itself. And it has multiple download options. You can download it from web using CDs, USB, hard drive, and the share network locations as well. And it also offers two-way progress synchronization between offline player and LMS. So at any point of time, if the person is accessing the content partially from offline player and partially directly from the LMS, he will have the proper synchronization of the progress data from either from the LMS side or from the OSB side, means offline player side. And offline player can be customized as per the branding needs of the organization and supports 22+ languages, and additional customizations as per the need of the organizations can be handled as well. Now let us have a look at the solution overview of offline player. So now here you can see there's an LMS which is through access. It's accessed through internet. The courses have been course catalog and online player through which you are accessing the courses through it. And at the LMS side, you will also have download API, offline player installer button, as well as sync API button, which is at the LMS side. And you can download the courses from the LMS course catalog onto the offline player, which will have the sync APIs, download API, and course catalog, and also a local storage for the content repository. And you can launch the courses from the offline player using content player, and the person can go through the courses, and these courses can be tracked. The progress can be tracked using offline player, and finally it can be synced back to the LMS. This progress is synced back to the LMS, and that is how you will have a proper synchronization of progress between LMS and the offline player. Now, as we have discussed that offline player has some additional download options, like you can have it on CD, USB, or external hard drives as well. And offline player also has a mobile version to download, play, and track HTML5 or HTML content as per the SCORM specs. You will have, because when you are accessing the content on the mobile, it improves your user experience because of the device optimized features like multi-touch navigation and so on. So you will have those features in the mobile version of offline player. And as usual, the content and user data is in the encrypted format. Now we'll be discussing on how offline e-learning can increase your learning and development ROI. before we move on to this, let us have a look at some learning and development facts. So among the highly advanced companies, as much as 18% of all training is now delivered through mobile devices. And even the oil and gas industry would require somewhere around 60,000 petrochemical engineers by 2016, yet only around 1,300 graduate from different schools each year. This means that oil companies will have to train and retrain and jointly educate a lot of energy engineers in order to grow. And as per the US study of 500 publicly traded firms, it was found that firms that had invested the most in training had a stockholder return 86% higher than firms who have invested the least in the training, with a score that was also 46% higher than the market average. And in the Middle East region, e-learning market is growing rapidly due to market makers such as government, private schools, and corporations. In fact, the government interventions play a critical role in the dissemination of e-learning material as an education method. This is not only directed towards students, but also at the employees in the public sector in the Middle East. Now, advantage of offline learning is it has a cost benefit. For a company with the multitude of employees in geographically distant locations, it can be very cost beneficial, as asynchronous onboarding employee training module is consistent and easily updated and maintained. This means it can have a long shelf life, which can result in low cost per employee. Similarly, this type of learning is used by the students to pursue the courses from all over the world. In this case, we are talking about learners actually. And it's also time efficient, because asynchronous e-learning usually requires only about 25 to 50% of time required for the training in the classroom settings. So if a system is used to deliver training on a task or a process for a worker, every minute the worker is off the line or from his location, that means the product he is making is not okay. Let's have a voice check again. So can you type yes if you are able to hear me clearly? Okay, let's proceed. And also it enables e-learning anytime, anywhere with multiple devices. It's possible in offline mode. By enabling anywhere, anytime learning with access to the multiple devices that the learners are going to use. And that way, the organizations can maximize the use and reach of their e-learning courses. Harbinger has provided offline learning solutions based on offline player to following types of organizations, whether it's LMS companies, ISVs from the LMS, digital publishing, airlines, petrochemical, pharmaceuticals, university NGOs, or extra or any other. So I would request the attendees to actually, if you can write back to me on my email ID, which I'm going to provide you at the end of this webinar, with the kind of industry you are from, so that we can send you across the relevant case study for that matter. So now here we'll be discussing one of the case studies of offline integration with an LMS. The situation was there a leading learning management system vendor which had 200 plus customers across the globe. The most of the customers they had a moving staff actually. Now the challenge they were facing is to provide a seamless way to deliver training content to users who have no or very limited internet connectivity. So they wanted to also ensure complete security and privacy of the downloaded training content, user profile, and local data. And they also wanted a no dependency or conflict with the existing Java runtime environment on the user's workstation. Now, the solution which Harbinger provided was, we integrated Harbinger offline player, which was customized as per their LMS branding, so that it had a look and feel of their LMS, and auto updater for upgrading offline player with the latest features, so wherein any upgrades which are happening at the offline player will be automatically upgraded at their LMS end, and also embedded JREs, that means Java runtime environment, inside the offline player to avoid the conflict with their existing JREs individual workstations. Apart from that, we also provided them support for 15 plus languages, because their customers were spread across the globe. Now the benefits they actually gained from this is they had an ability to access the training content in offline mode, which they were not able to do, and they had a need for it. They wanted to maximize the returns on existing training investments by maximizing the number and reach of the users of e-learning courses which they were publishing on their LMS, and end-to-end security through SSL encryption upon DRM. And obviously they had an enhanced user experience, because the content which they were having was heavy with interactivities, and since the content was available on the individual machines and was independent of the connectivity, it was running smoothly, hence enhancing the user experience of the learner. Yeah. Now coming to the special offer for the webinar attendees, we will be providing free consultation for offline learning for 2 hours for all the webinar attendees for today's webinar. And you can write to me on my email ID, vinodg@harbingergroup.com. That's VINODG @HARBINGERGROUP.com. Now this session is open for questions. If you have any questions, you can ask me. Are there any questions?
Wow, that was a great session, Vinod. Thank you. I'm sure the audience too is pleased with such a rich and insightful session. Okay, we'll be taking questions from the audience now. I remind you once again, if you have any query, please type in the questions pane. If due to time constraints we are not able to cover your questions in today's session, we'll definitely send you the Q&A document covering answers to all the questions raised today. And also, please don't forget about the special offer. So, Vinod, here is the first question. What kind of content encryption technique is being used in OLP?
Oh, that's a nice question actually. Offline player uses triple DES based content encryption. That is the method which is used for the encryption of content and other data in the offline player.
Okay, so here is the next question. Does offline player support any reports?
Yeah, offline player does support reports. It has an interface to display user progress data, including say course status, time spent on the course, and whether the progress is synchronized with the LMS. These things you can actually report. You can get the reports for these things from offline player.
Okay. So moving to our next question. So our next question is how auto sync works in OLP.
Desktop offline player actually provides a setting interface where user can configure the interval in minutes for an auto progression. So that means you can actually configure your interface with certain intervals for minutes, say 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and so on. And as in when the OLP finds that there is a connectivity, it automatically syncs back the progress to the LMS.
Okay. Okay, so my team is informing me that we can take one more question now. So, are you ready, Vinod?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So it's a quite big question. How two-way sync in OLP will work in the following scenario? A, user has taken one lesson from OLP and exited from OLP. And B, after some time, user attempts next few lessons from the LMS.
Can you repeat the question again for the benefit of the attendees?
Sure. So our question is, how two-way sync in OLP will work in the following scenario? A, user has taken one lesson from OLP and exited from OLP. And B, after some time, user attempts next few lessons from the LMS.
What do you mean to say? Can everybody hear me? If you are able to hear me, please type it in the chat box. Okay. So yeah, I can see that. Now, let me answer this. Now, the person is actually taking the course from OLP and then exiting from OLP and taking the same course from the LMS side. And then we want to make sure that there is proper synchronization of the course on both the devices here. Yeah. So answer is basically there are two ways to ensure that OLP is updated with the progress tracked in the LMS. One, the user can click on the interface on the LMS that initiates two-way sync with the OLP. But for this, we will require that LMS we customize to provide this such kind of interface. So we have some kind of button on the LMS side. Okay. When you click on it, so it will synchronize your OLP with the LMS. And the second way of synchronization happens when user logs into OLP itself, thus retrieving the latest progress from the LMS so that user can continue from where he left off from the LMS. So that means when you are actually logging into the OLP, it will retrieve the latest progress from the LMS, and you can continue from the point where the person has left from the LMS site for that particular course. Hope it answers the question actually.
Yes, definitely this answer is quite helpful for our attendees. So today's webinar is being recorded and everyone will receive an email with a link to view a recording of the event along with the Q&A document. With this, we conclude today's session. Once again, thank you all for joining us and have a great day ahead.
Thank you.